Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on whichever part of the world you're tuning in from. Well, I'm so excited, grateful for life to be with you here this morning as we are going to be taking a fresh new perspective into the financial market for today. So it's a happy new week, everyone. So first of all, let's confirm that we are good to go this morning. So if you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, please let me know in the comment section by typing I. And if the sound quality isn't good or probably the video isn't good, please feel free to let me know, as this would enable me to do the appropriate adjustment to make our experience better out here. So I would like to see some feedback, please. If you can see my screen, please let me know and you can hear my voice clearly. So let's see what we have here. All right, so I can see a handful of comments. All right, so I see your comment, just 939 4193 6779 33871. Good morning to you all. Hey Carrie, how are you doing today? Glad to have you around. Happy new week to you and trust you had a wonderful weekend. 8250, good morning to you. All right, so I will take this as a positive feedback that we are good to go this morning. And it's on this note I welcome you all once again to another promising session on the X Trend Speed Live. My own name is Sheriff Daramola, and for the next 1 hour I'm going to be your host. I will be taking you through the financial market, taking you through my thought process on how I intend to manage my positions ahead of the New York session today. And in fact, in preparation for this week, I have conducted a comprehensive price action based technical analysis on the financial assets that we are going to be monitoring for this week, utilizing simple parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and of course chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical price movement of this asset. Well, personally, I have a handful of assets that we are going to be looking at, and in fact I'm excited to share with you very interesting and simple setups that we can use to manage our positions for today. But since today is the first trading day of the week, if you do have any asset, be it cryptocurrency, currency pairs, options, commodities, what have you, feel free to drop them in the comment section, and trust me, I'll try to incorporate it into our plans for this week. And of course, we shall be monitoring that asset throughout the course of the week. So if you have any asset you want us to look at, feel free to drop them in the comment section. But personally, I have about 5, depending on what the time is, if I can able to take you through all of them. But whatever it may be, let's see how things works out. So I have the USOILSPOT, I have the USTech100, popularly known as the Nasdaq, I have the USDJPY, the GBP USD, and of course the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. So let's see how well and how far we can go with these assets on our watch list. And for those who are joining us for the first time, I didn't forget you guys. You're welcome. I'm always glad to have newcomers in the house. And you might be asking, what is it that you were doing here? And what is it that where have you found yourself in? Well, what we simply do here is to come together on a daily basis in anticipation of the New York trading session, where we manage our existing positions if we have any, and of course position ourselves strategically ahead of the New York session so that we can capitalize on any potential opportunity that comes up along the line. So we do this on a daily basis, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time. So I implore you to stay tuned in and always be part of our subsequent session, as the more time you spend with us, the more you get to understand how things works and eventually be able to use the information you have gathered here to make your own independent trading decision. So once again, you are welcome on board. So I can see some couple of assets already in the comment section. I saw Fisherman 420 says that he wants us to look at the GBP JPY. Vote1 says XAUUSD. Norway 76, good morning to you. Fisherman 420, good morning to you. And let's see how things will work out already. So we have GBP JPY, we have EURJPY, but we are going to take one. Fisherman 420 just dropped two, so we're going to take one out of that one, and let's see how things will go. So with that being said here, let's dive right into the business for today. And as usual, the first asset we are going to be taking on, let's see which one should we take on first. Okay, the first one we shall be deliberating on today is going to be the US All Spot. Now, the US All Spot currently is range bound at the moment, which I'm yet to have a position running, which makes it quite fit for us to be on standby together for any potential opportunity around this area. So the first thing I would like to do here is to take us into the higher time frame, from which we are going to be looking at things from an holistic standpoint so that we can have a better understanding of what is really going on from a long-term perspective. Now, scaling up into the 4 hours time frame, so let's quickly revisit this and see what is really going on from the higher time frame. So on the 4 hours time frame, it is quite obvious that price action has been very bullish since the beginning of the month of July. And to further emphasize the strength of the buyers in this particular market, I was able to connect the series of higher lows here, which is giving us this ascending trend line, which of course is going to be one of the major parameters that we are going to be using to guide our trading activities for this week. And of course, you know how we do it whenever we have ascending trend lines. As long as price remains above the ascending trend line, we have no other choice than to look out for structures and patterns that will support the idea of buying. Now, in this case scenario, price still remains above the ascending trend line. In fact, in the last 6, 7, 8 weeks now, price action has remained above this ascending trend line, and of course it will make quite a whole lot of sense looking out for opportunities to buy. Now, in addition to this ascending trend line, are a couple of key levels I was able to spot, especially since the second half of last month's trading session. And the most important key level here is the $82 mark, which is going to be serving as our yardstick to guide trading activities for this week. So we have the $82 level marked out. You indeed want to be marking out this level, as this level here is going to be guiding our trading activity for this week. And you know how we use our key level in this community. As long as price remains above the key level, we want to be looking out for patterns and structures that will support the idea of buying, while price dropping down the key level will welcome selling opportunities. And one interesting thing about this key level at the $82 mark is the fact that it also shares a beautiful confluence with that ascending trend line we identified earlier. Now this now begs the question, will price action respect the ascending trend line one more time to incite an uptrend continuation, or are we going to be having a scenario where the breakdown of both the ascending trend line and the key level at the $82 mark will be inciting a sell-off in this particular market? So you would agree with me that we are at a crucial point where we have a confluence aligning both the ascending trend line and the key level at the $82 area. Now, to get a better perspective into what is going on here, we want to see how market participants has been reacting to this key level at the $82 level to give us an insight into where price action is likely going to be heading towards, at least during the first half of this week. Now to do that, we will need to scale down into the lower time frame. Now scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, this was what I was able to come up with after monitoring how participant in the market will be reacting to that our key level. So if you look at what happened here, so the price action started the week on the bearish note. As you will see, price started at around the $82.50 level, dropped into the $81.40 level, and we saw buy pressure resume around that area, giving us a beautiful flat channel to work with for this week. And you all know that whenever we have a flat channel, it further emphasizes the level of indecision in the market at that particular point in time. And in fact, when we have a flat channel, you know how we do it in this community. We remain patient, waiting for a signal to happen, which of course will come either in the form of the breakdown of the support line to give us an opportunity to sell, or the breakout of the resistance line to give us an opportunity to buy. So you can see how important the structure is at this point in time. Then in addition to that flat channel is that descending trend line I was able to spot after connecting the series of lower highs. Remember, as soon as price tested the $84.30 level, that was on Thursday of last week trading session, we saw price drop to the downside, finding lower lows and lower highs along that line. And when I connected the series of lower highs, I have this beautiful descending trend line, which of course we are going to be using as well to guide our trading activity for today. And of course, as long as price remains below that trend line, we have no other choice than to look out for selling opportunities. So for today, we are going to be using the trend line, that descending trend line, the key level at the $82 level, and of course the ascending trend line we identified on the lower time frame, then the flat channel to use as a yardstick to guide trading activity for today. So how do we use the structures to capitalize on the next move? Now, the first thing first here is to wait for price action to break out of that range. Very, very important. And one interesting thing is the resistance line of that range, which is situated at the $82.50 level, shares a confluence with that descending trend line. Now, if price action breaks out of the $82.50 level and of course that descending trend line, then this will be a signal that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bullish attempt. Hence, a breakout and retest of the $82.50 level will be welcoming buying opportunities in this market. So if we are going to be buying the US oil spot for today, this is what we shall be looking out for to capitalize on a potential uptrend continuation. Now, in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunities here, we should also take into consideration the potentials the sellers also have at this particular point in time. And remember, you know how we do it. We don't want to keep our eggs in one basket. We want to be as open and as dynamic as possible. The financial market is a very, very flexible environment. And if you do want to be profitable, you want to be able to shift momentum immediately the market says so. Now, in this scenario here, the condition that will make us want to continue selling here is for price to remain below the descending trend line. And where is it that we're going to be looking out for opportunities to sell? Now, remember, we identified this ascending trend line on the 4 hours time frame, remember? So this ascending trend line needs to be breached, broken to the downside for us to begin to start considering selling. And in fact, we will see a breakdown of that trend line, retest of structure, which of course would have also broken down that key level at the $82 area, where continued selling pressure will welcome selling opportunities. And if price action goes on to further break down the $81.40 level, we will be adding more position to our existing trade on the US oil spot. So this is what we are going to be looking at for today. So you can see how crucial this zone is. So our center of focus for today is basically between the $82.50 and the $81.40 area, where a breakout or breakdown of that range will be welcoming an opportunity to either buy or sell in this particular market. I'm of the opinion that things are looking very bullish, considering the fact that price still remains above our ascending trend line we identified on the 4 hours time frame, which of course captures the long-term outlook in this particular market. But if price breaks down that ascending trend line, we of course want to be on standby to capitalize on that sell-off if it's going to happen. So these are my views here on the US Oil Spot for today. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions, and you can as well use that time to mark out those levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your trading activities during the New York session today. All right, so I think I see some comments here. Fisherman420 says that it will prefer EURJPY. Okay, so I will put EURJPY on my watch list. Okay, and I do hope you will be around when we trade that. So I will be asking if you are around before I go into the EURJPY. Okay, I see comment from Dino. You're welcome, Dino. Nest57, good morning to you. Thank you for checking in. Votuan is okay. All right, no problem. Susie MB, good morning to you. Jakra Centers, good morning to you too. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. So we shall be moving right into the next financial asset on our watch list for today. So the next asset on our watch list for today is of course the USTech100, popularly known as the NASDAQ. And remember, last week was quite an interesting week for us on the USTech100, as we were doing more of selling the USTech100, giving us the impression that price action is going through a retracement phase. Remember, this asset has been on a very strong bullish momentum since the beginning of the year. So we are going to be looking at how to position ourselves, though I have a buy position running at this point in time. So I will be letting you know what led or incited the idea of buying at this particular point in time. But before we go into that detail, let's run through the higher time frame. Let's look at things from an holistic standpoint, and let's see where the direction of price action is really going. So on the daily time frame, this is where I was able to start my analysis from. So I took into consideration the nature of price action since the beginning of this year, and what thing that is quite clear on this chart is the fact that price action is very, very bullish. We have higher highs, we have higher lows, further confirming the strength of the buyers. So what I did here was to connect the series of higher lows to give me this ascending trend line, which of course is going to be one of the major parameters we are going to be using to guide our trading activities for today. And as long as price remains above that ascending trend line, we will continue to look out for patterns and structures that will support the idea of buying. Now, in addition to that trend line, I was able to spot a key level along the $15,000 mark, which of course is a very strong psychological area considering the round figure of that price. And in fact, if we go to as far back as the month of June, you will see how that level had been a major determinant of price action in this particular market. In fact, since price action climbed above that zone. In the later part of the month of June, we've seen how sellers have found it difficult to drop below that level. We saw what happened here during the second week of the month of July. And in the last couple of days now, price action is back into that $15,000 area, which now begs the question, will price respect the ascending trend line one more time, just as it has been doing since the beginning of the year, to incite an uptrend continuation? Or are we going to be seeing a situation here where price will break down both the trend line and the key level at the $15,000 mark to incite a sell-off in this market? So you will agree with me that we are at a crucial point in time where both buyers and sellers have the tendency of pushing price in their favor. So what we are going to be doing here is to try and see our participants in the market has been reacting to that $15,000 zone, which of course still remains above the ascending trend line, to determine what our next line of action will be. Now, one more thing I would like to state here is, remember last week, just trying to refresh our memories on what we talked about on this asset last week. Remember, we acknowledged this structure here, which looked more like a double top structure, which from a technical standpoint is a strong reversal pattern. And with our neckline around the 15,400, remember we took advantage of the selling opportunities, and of course we had multiple entries rather than the move all the way to the downside. So what I was trying to say here is that we had the reversal pattern earlier, which of course, if price breaks down the ascending trend line, will further buttress that reversal pattern there. So let's see how the market will react to this key level at the $15,000 mark. And in order to see this very clearly, we shall be scaling down into the 1 hour time frame. So while I was trying to dissect the 1 hour time frame to see how to position myself for today's trading session, the first thing I was able to observe here is that descending trend line, which you will see on your screen right now. So if you look at this structure closely, let me see, I think we have something like this. Since the beginning of this month, price has been bearish. As you see, we have lower highs here, and after connecting that, we have a descending trend line to use to guide our trading activity. So if price remains below the trend line, then we have a potential of a breakdown of the ascending trend line we saw on the 4 hours time frame, on the daily time frame, sorry. But if price breaks out of this descending trend line, then we have a chance of looking out for buying opportunities. Now, in addition to that trend line, is to see how market has been reacting to that key level at the $15,000 mark. And in fact, I was able to identify a range where you will see price was initially confined within the $15,080 mark and the $14,960 level, giving us an insight into the indecision at the beginning of the week. But with what we have here, price has already broken out of that resistance line, had a $15,080 mark to trigger my first buy position for this week. So I'm hoping that price action will continue to the upside from this area based on the breakout of that resistance line, which interestingly shares a beautiful confluence with that descending trend line. So a breakout of that descending trend line could be a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bullish attempt. So with this scenario here, I'm looking for something like this breakout, retest of structure, which appears to be going on right now. And if continued buy pressure happens around this area, this will give us more confidence to be part of that uptrend scenario. So for those who had missed out on that buy position, we can be looking out for this retest of structure, look out for continued buy pressure above both the descending trend line and the $15,080 area to capitalize on the uptrend continuation. So based on this current scenario, we are looking out for buying opportunity at this point. Now, if price action goes on to find new highs, then we should be looking out for more opportunities to maximize on that move. So I have a level here at the 15,150 level, which we of course want to be marking out on our chart, and this will also be serving as a yardstick to add more position to our existing trade if price action goes on to break out and retest that level. So you want to be marking that level out too, and let's see if the market will continue to the upside. So we remain bullish on this one. Let's see how far this is going to go. But if instead price action takes me out of this buy position, and then we might be seeing an opportunity to sell. And if we are going to consider selling, well, I would want to see price action take out the buy positions within the 15,000 level and the 14,960 area for me to join a bearish move. Now remember that as soon as the breakdown happens, we are not getting too excited. We are not having a sell stop order in this case scenario, but instead waiting for a confirmation that reveals that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above that descending trend line and the $15,000 mark before we can jump into any sell position. And of course, this would reflect on the chart as price coming back to retest any of this zone. It could be the 14,960 or the 15,000 level, or even the descending trend line before we can now start joining any bearish move at this point. So you can see how critical this zone is at this point in time. So we want to be very, very patient before joining any bearish opportunity in this particular market. So these are my views here on the USTech100 for today. So you want to be marking out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your trading activities for today. If you have any questions regarding what I just explained here, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Trust me, I am here and willing to be of help in that regard. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions, while you also use that time to mark out these levels on your chart. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page here, so we shall be moving right into the next asset on our watch list for today. So the next financial asset on our watch list for today is my favorite, the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. So on the XAUUSD, we are still in a very choppy scenario going on right now. Though last week trading session, we were able to had some couple of sell position. Though I think we had a stop loss hit at some point in time, but we were able to stay afloat and remain on the positive side on our portfolio for the XAUUSD. Now the question going into the new week is, will this selling pressure continue considering the strong economic data coming in from the United States? So this is what we are going to be looking at from a technical standpoint. And in order to do this, we want to see things from an holistic standpoint. In fact, we will still go a little bit higher into the weekly time frame, as we are at a critical point in the market right now. So before we delve into the details here, let's look at the daily time frame first of all. Let's see how participant in the market has been reacting to the market structure on the higher time frame. Now, the first thing you would observe here on the daily time frame, taking into consideration the nature of price action in the last how many months now? I think about 9 months now. It is quite clear that price action has been very bullish. And to further emphasize this, when you connect the series of higher lows here, in fact, I have a couple of ascending trend line which has been supporting that bullish momentum since September, October, November of last year's trading session. Now, in addition to that trend line is this key level at the 1910 area. Now, if we go to as far back as the beginning of this year, you will see how the 1910 level had been a major determinant of price action. So anytime price action comes into the zone, it has been if price breaks down, then selling pressure resumes. If price breaks above, buy pressure resumes. Look at what happened here in January stroke the early days of February. We saw, though we had a couple of breakouts of that area, but it was more prominent with selling pressure pushing price to the downside. And not until in the month of March that we finally saw the breakout of that zone, and since that moment price action had remained above the 1910 1900 area, and in fact it came back into the structure again. That was in the month of July. We saw buy pressure around that area, but it wasn't really that strong. As you will see, selling pressure resumed around the 1980 to bring price back into that key level one more time. So you would agree with me that we are at a crucial point in time where price is back into that key level. So the question here is, will price continue to respect that key level, serving as a support line for price movement to push price to the upside? Or are we going to be having a breakdown of that structure just like it did right here in the month of February of this year? Now, before we go into the details here, I had to scale up into the weekly time frame to see how this zone has been, how participant in this market has been reacting to the zone in the past. Now, when we scale up into the weekly time frame, we begin to see that the 1900 area and the 1910 level had been a selling niche for participants in this market since 2020. Now look at what happened here. We saw selling niche here, we saw selling niche, we saw sellers jump in negating bullish attempt, though we had a breakout here in last year's trading session, but we saw price drop again. We saw buy pressure breakdown happened, and price action broke out here in the month of March this year, and price has still remained above that area. So at this point, you would agree that we are at a crucial juncture in the market where, depending on how price reacts to the zone, is likely going to determine where we are going to be going for at least the first half of this week. So with this information we have gathered here, let's scale down into the 4 hours time frame. So on the 4 hours time frame, this was what I was able to come up with, which will be the foundation of our decision making for this week. Now look at the structure very closely. This is the 4 hours time frame, and we've already acknowledged that this area around the 1910 and the 1900 area has been a very, very strong demand zone. As you will see, every moment price drops into this area, we saw how sellers have struggled to break through that area. We saw what happened here in the month of June. We saw what happened here in the month of June stroke the early days of the month of July. Mid-July, we saw what happened here. Buy pressure resumed at every attempt sellers tried to break through. And throughout the course of last week's trading session, we saw how this area became a very, very strong buy zone as sellers continue to find it difficult to break through that area, hereby giving us a sign that we might likely be seeing a bullish momentum around that area. So at this point in time, as long as price remains above the 1910 level, we shall continue to look out for buying opportunity. Then in addition to that is this couple of trend lines you will see here. Let me align that quickly. So we have descending trend lines after connecting the series of lower highs, and price still remains below that trend line. So we need to be very, very careful here, and only buy when we start seeing strong signal that price action will be going bullish. So we want to be scaling down into the 1 hour time frame so we can see how participants in this market has been reacting to that area above that 1910 level, which will be serving as our key level for this week. So scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, this was what I was able to come up with this morning. So let me zoom right in so that we can see things more clearly. So look at the structure we have here on the 1 hour time frame. Now, since the beginning of this new week, you will see that price action had remained within this range, that is between the $1,915 level and of course our key level along the 1,910-ish, giving us a flat channel and further emphasizing the level of indecision at this particular point in time. Now, with this scenario in place, how do we intend to capitalize on any potential move? Now, remember, whenever we have a flat channel, we want to wait patiently for a breakout of that channel to happen for us to buy, or the breakdown of the channel to happen before we can sell. Now, in addition to this range here is this descending trend line, which we spotted on the 1 hour time frame, which of course also shares a confluence with that $1,915 level. Now, if price action breaks out of the resistance line, which is at the 1,915, it would have also broken out of that descending trend line, which would be a beautiful signal that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bullish attempt. And if this happens, we want to be in for a buy position, then look out for more opportunities at the breakout of the $1,922.50 level to maximize the potential of this bullish move. So this is what we are going to be looking at to buy the XAUUSD today. So anywhere above both the 1,915 and the descending trend line will be the sweet spot for us to look out for buying opportunities in this market. Now, you know how we do it in this community. In as much as we're looking out for buying opportunity, we also want to keep tabs on the potentials the sellers also have at this particular point in time. Now, if you look at this scenario here, we have a range already where the support line also shares a confluence with our key level for this week, which is situated at the 1,910 level. Now, for us to join any sell position here, I would rather want to see price action slice through that support line to give me a bearish signal. Now, remember, we are not going to be getting too excited here, as the breakdown of this key level could turn out to be a false breakdown. Now, for us to have a confirmation that truly this breakdown will be dictating the pace for this week, we would need to scale down into a lower time frame like our 10, 5 or 15 minutes time frame to look out for confirmations that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above the 1,910 level, which of course would reflect on the chart as price retesting the zone at the 1,910 or probably the trend line to incite a downtrend continuation. So this is the scenario we are going to be looking out for if we are going to be selling the XAUUSD today. So you would agree with me that we are at a crucial moment, and our center of focus for this week is going to be within the 1,915 and the $1,910.40 area, where a breakout or breakdown will be welcoming an opportunity to trade. So you do want to be marking out those levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your trading activities for today. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section as always. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds. Let's see if there are any questions before we move right into the EURJPY, which was introduced to us by Fisherman 420. So Fisherman 420, please let me know in the comment section if you are still with us so that I can attend to the EURJPY. So I really appreciate your response so that we can all be on the same page here. All right. So, okay, I can see Fisherman 420's comment. So Fisherman is still here. So we are going to go into the EURJPY and let's fish this market together. So the next asset on our watch list right now, it's going to be, so in the absence of no questions, so we shall be moving on to the next pair, right? So no questions, then we move on to the next assets on our watch list. So we're going to be looking at the EURJPY just as suggested by Fisherman 420. So on the EURJPY, it's been a while since I traded the EURJPY actually. So we would want to scale up into the higher time frame so that we can see things from an holistic standpoint. We want to see the major direction of price action on this one. So we shall be scaling into the daily time frame, and in fact, we will see. Let me take out all these ones. We will see that prices at a phenomenal high at this point in time, where we have price at the highest zone it could be for this year. And the first thing we would observe on the daily time frame is the fact that price action is very, very bullish. And for the fact that it is bullish, we have higher highs and higher lows. The next thing we want to be doing is to connect the series of higher lows here to give us an ascending trend line to work with. So if we connect the series of higher lows here, we have this. Let's mark this out like this. So we should be having, all right. So we thicken this a little bit to emphasize its importance in this particular market. So we have a beautiful ascending trend line. So when we bring out our candle chart, let's do some little adjustments to have this connecting with the pivot lows. So we have a couple of ascending trend line which we are going to be using to guide our trading activities going forward. Now, in addition to that trend line, we would need a key level that will be serving as a parameter to guide our trading activity. And in fact, we have a key level at a psychological point, which is at the 158.00 area, which is a strong psychological level considering the round figure of that price. So we shall be labeling this one as the 158.00 level. So you want to be marking that one out on your chart too as well, as we will be needing it to guide our trading activity for this week. So as long as price remains above the 158, we will continue to look out for buying opportunity. Now, with this information we have on the daily time frame, we would like to scale down to a much more lower time frame to see things more clearly and see how participant in this market has been reacting to this current zone. So I'm scaling down into the 4 hours time frame here. So let me adjust this one a little bit so that we can see. Okay, so we have the 158 around here. Then we also have since the beginning of this month, it's quite clear that price has been bullish. So we have a couple of trend lines which we are going to be using to guide us. So we have this one right here. That's the major trend line. Then we saw a deviation from that trend line during the second week of this month, giving us something like this to work with. So I will reduce the pixel on this one. So we have a couple of trend lines here on the 4 hours time frame. All right. So price still remains very bullish. Looking at the 4 hours time frame, then we have the highest point for price situated at the 159.250 level. So I will be giving this a different color. So we have the 159.250 level. Let me put that one right there. So ensure that you are marking out these levels on your chart. So we have I'll give it a purple color instead to differentiate it from the previous levels. Aha, so here we are on the 1 hour time frame. And if we look at what has been going on here since the early hours of today, you will see that price action is currently range bound. range bound at this point, so which further emphasize the level of indecision at this point in time. So since the beginning of this week, I would like to give this a wine color. Let's separate it from the previous. So we have 158.850, 158.850 level. Please do mark these levels out. They will become important very soon, as you will see as it gradually unfolds. Then we have the 158.200 level, another psychological area considering the round figure of that price. Here we go. So now we have a beautiful flat channel to work with for today. Now, you know how we do it whenever we have this simple kind of range where price action is caught within the 158.850 and the 158.200 area. We want to remain very patient, waiting for a signal to come in the form of either a breakout of the resistance line, something like this breakout retest to join a bullish momentum, or the breakdown retest of structure to join a bearish momentum. Now, with the situation we have here, price still remains above that ascending trend line. Remember, we had this ascending trend line which has been supporting this recent momentum since the beginning of this month. And as long as price remains above this trend line, you know that we have no business selling the EURJPY for today. So with this scenario in place, we shall be looking out for buying opportunities above the 158.850. So we're going to be looking out for buying opportunities here, breakout, retest of structure, then we join that move to the upside. And if price action continues in such a way that it breaks out of the 159.250, which happens to be the highest point price action has been for this year, then we shall be looking out to add more position to our existing trade. Now, in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunities in this particular market, you know how we do it in this community. We also want to keep tabs on the potentials of sellers coming in at this point in time. Now, another thing I would like us to leverage on here is the psychological aspect of this market. Now, for the fact that price action has just tested a new high at the 159.250 last week, when price action finds a new high, it's a very uncomfortable area for those who are holding buy positions, as any slight selling pressure around this area could incite a huge sell-off. And from a psychological perspective, when price action is around a new high, we always see this reflection of the fear and indecision in the market on the chart as choppy situation, consolidation phases before participants get acclimatized to that price level. Then we could see an uptrend continuation. So we want to consider the potentials of sellers too, considering the emotions that there will be some fear and indecision going on around this area, considering the fact that it's a new high for the EURJPY. So because of that scenario, we want to consider selling opportunities too as well. Now, if we are going to be selling the EURJPY, what is it that we want to see on this chart that will make us change our bias from bullish to bearish? Now, for me to sell the EURJPY today, I would want to see price action break down this ascending trend line which we spotted earlier, remember? So if price breaks down the ascending trend line, then we will start considering selling. But remember that we are not having a sell stop order below the structure, as we will need some confirmations to happen, giving us the confidence that truly sellers are here to dictate the pace. And for us to see a confirmation here, we will need price action to break down. Then we scale down into the lower time frame to look out for confirmations that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above that ascending trend line, which of course would reflect on the chart as continued retest of that ascending trend line, then we can join a bearish move to the downside. But at this point in time, we don't know how far that bearish momentum will go. Is it going to stop at the 158.00 area to incite an uptrend continuation, or is it going to stop in the in the ascending trend line we identified earlier to incite an uptrend continuation, or probably break down and incite a sell-off in this particular market? So in the meantime, we want to be very not too ambitious here if any selling opportunity comes in. So let's look at what we have if sellers come in. So we have a minimum of 60 to a max of about 120 pips, and if price goes on to further break down that ascending trend line, we'll be looking out for more opportunities to sell. So for us to capitalize on the selling opportunities here, so we have a level around the 158.550, which we shall be using to join any bearish momentum in this particular market. So I'll give this a darker color. So let's have this like this. So we name it 158.550. So we'll give it a dark color too. So this is what we are going to be using to guide any selling opportunities in this market. So breakdown retest of the 158.550 will welcome selling opportunities, and if price action goes on to break down the support line at the 158.200, we'll be adding more position to our existing trade. And one interesting thing about the 158.550 is the fact that it also shares a beautiful confluence with that ascending trend line. So if price breaks down the ascending trend line, then we shall see this as a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bearish attempt. Then we want to join the bearish move. And personally, I will be aiming at an area around that ascending trend line for my TP target. And if price action goes on to break down, then we shall be looking out for more opportunities to sell the EURJPY. So at this point in time, it's a simple setup we have here. So you do want to be marking out those levels on your chart. Our center of focus right now is simply between the 158.850 and the 158.550 level, where depending on how price action reacts to the zone will determine where our next line of action will be. So please don't forget, we are using the 158.850 as a yardstick to guide a bullish momentum. A further breakout of the 159.250 will welcome more buying opportunities, while we are using the 158.550 and the ascending trend line here to guide any selling opportunities, where a further breakdown of the 158.200 and the 158.00 level will be welcoming more opportunities to sell the EURJPY for today. So these are my views here on the EURJPY. I hope Fisherman 420 is in the house, and let's see if you have any questions as regards to this current setup. Let me know quickly in the comment section before we draw the curtain for today's trading session. So let's see what we have here. So I will be waiting for any questions as regards to the setup. So I will be taking the next 10-15 seconds off, and you can as well use that time to mark out those levels on your chart, as you will be needing it as a reference point to guide your trading activities for today. So let's see how this will play out. We shall be back again tomorrow to review the updates. So any questions, please let me know. All right, you are welcome, Fisherman. Glad to have you around. And I think I saw a comment from 279 who is asking if the US oil is going to rise. I think we talked about this. That was the first asset we talked about. But for the sake of being on the same page with us, let me run through that quickly. Then I call it a day here. So on the US All Spot, we had a very simple setup identified on the 1 hour time frame, and we talked about how important the $82 level is, which we said is going to be serving as our yardstick to guide trading activities for this week. And you know how we use our key levels in this community. As long as price remains above the key level, we want to be looking out for patterns and structures that will support the idea of buying that asset. And not only if price breaks out of the key level that we will be buying the asset. So look at the structure here. Price is above the key level, and of course we have a range identified. As you will see, price has been confined within the $82.50 level and the $81.40 level since the beginning of this week. Now with the situation we have here, we further have a clue into the indecision going on in the market right now. Now with the situation in place, you know how we do it. Whenever we have a range, we wait for price action to either break out, retest the resistance line to give us an opportunity to buy, or give the breakdown retest of the support line here to give us an opportunity to sell. So I told you yesterday, earlier, sorry, I told you earlier that I have a buy stop order above the $82.50 level, which a breakout of that resistance line would have also broken out of that descending trend line, which of course would be a good sign to join a bullish momentum. So we have the $82.50 level as a criteria or condition that needs to be broken for us to consider buying the US All Spot for today. And in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunity, we always keep tabs with the opposite direction too as well, ensuring that we have the potentials of the sellers to duly analyze so that we can also prepare for that move if the opposite is what happens. So in order to join a bearish momentum here, I told us that we would need price to break down the ascending trend line we identified on the 4 hours time frame. Remember, we identified an ascending trend line here. So I would need price to break down that structure, retest it a couple of times on my lower time frame to give me confirmation that we are good to sell below the $81.40 level. So this is the simple setup we have on the US All Spot. So you do want to be marking out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your trading activities for today. So 2433279, I do hope I was able to answer your question. I'm not even sure if you're still around, but I hope what I said here will be fine in helping you make your independent trading decisions for today. So I think it's on this note I would like to call it a day here. It has been a very interesting time out here with you guys. And in fact, we were able to attend to, I think, 5 financial assets for today. We talked about the US All Spot. We talked about the USTech100, popularly known as the NASDAQ. We talked about the GBP USD, the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. And of course, we talked about the EURJPY, which was introduced to us by Fisherman 420. And in fact, we were able to identify very simple setups that we are going to be using to guide our trading activities for today. And please note that today is the first trading day of the week, and there is likely going to be some testing of waters around the key levels we identified today. So we want to be very, very careful, ensure that our structures mature before we jump into any positions. So let's see how the market will play out. And for those who are joining us for the first time, I hope you are able to gain 1 or 2 things from what we discussed today. And trust me, the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how to use this information to eventually help you in making your independent trading decision. So I look forward to seeing more of you tomorrow. So join us tomorrow again, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, as we come here again to review how well this asset has been doing, and at the same time get ready for the New York session tomorrow. So it's on this note I wish you all the best of luck, and do have a wonderful evening, everyone. Bye bye.